Watch Megyn Kelly sit there absolutely shocked as a guest tells her about her experience talking with Trump after the attempted assassination against him. Folks, I think you're going to like this. I know that I like these kinds of things because it's always interesting when a guest tells somebody about, on a podcast, tells somebody about a personal interaction with Trump. It gives you, more insight into how he is on a personal level versus, behind a teleprompter or a TV screen, giving a scripted speech, what have you. So with that being said, we are going to get right into it. But first, do me a big favor here. Like our video and share it around so we can keep bringing you all this great, hard-hitting content. And as always, Patriots, I'm your host, Darian, and this is Resist the Mainstream.
The next morning, the president calls me. I don't know, it was early. And he said, Selena, this is President Donald Trump. Like, I didn't know it was him, right? Mm-hmm. And he says, are you okay? Is your daughter okay? Is your son-in-law okay? He says them by name. Like, I can't even believe he remembers that. He's by himself. There's no one with him. So it's not like he has like a little crib sheet, right? And I said, are you bleeping kidding me? You just been shot and you're asking about me. And then I'm like, oh my God, I just swore at the president. And I got myself really upset. He ended up calling me 7 times that day. We had a very in-depth conversation and people can read it. But I want to go back to the cover of that book and why this moment's important. Because I asked him, I said, why did you say fight, fight, fight? And I'll never forget this. He goes, well, Selena, I wasn't Donald Trump in that moment. I was representing the presidency. And I had an obligation. Yeah, when I get chills every time I say this.
I just got the chills too.
Yeah, I have an obligation as a former president and maybe potentially president again, to show strength, to show people that we are resolved and nothing will hurt us or take us down, and we continue on. And I have
that's amazing. That moment. I mean, we have it. Here it is. I mean, we've talked about the assassination moment. Let's look at the fight, fight, fight moment in SOT 32.
Wait.
The fist up, saying fight, surrounded by the Secret Service agents. It's his incredible combination of like, yes, he has hubris. Of course, every president does, but also understanding how to lead, how to be strong and how to lead, what people need in a leader.
That tough guy energy is exactly what America both needs and craves, all right? That actually really turned around the trajectory of his campaign. Many people don't remember, but not long before Trump got attempted assassination on him, it actually wasn't very clear who was leading in the presidential polls, whether it be him, Kamala. It was kind of up in the air, even with how horrible Biden was doing in office. But at least, and this is just my opinion, that changed that day when Trump did that and then reacted just like a total boss the way he did. So many people gained respect for him. And, I think a lot of people who are kind of on the edge of, do I go Democrat? Do I go Republican? I don't know. The more kind of centrist types, they saw that and said, all right, that's it. Trump it is. I mean, heck, I even had a friend text me and, he wasn't a centrist per se, but previously Democrat voter who texted me, Donald Trump got shot. I'm going to vote for him now. He deserves it. That's all it took. I mean, I also think it was his reaction too, though, to be fair to that friend.
Yeah, we revisited that question 2 weeks ago. It'll be out in my Washington Post story on Friday. Very emotional interview between him and Helen Compatore, the widow of Corey Compatore, and myself.
Oh, wow.
And I asked him again. I said, you told me that. He goes, yeah, I did. I said, well, he goes, well, I mean, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now. That's why I'm going full steam ahead, because I have purpose. God's hand was in that moment, and I have an obligation to be the best that I can be for this country. And again, I get goosebumps because people have all these different thoughts about who they think President Trump is. And as a reporter, and trust me, he's gotten mad at me too along the way. But as a reporter, there is a humanity and empathy in him.
Always remembers your name.
True.
Always asks about your children and your grandchildren.
Always looks you in the eye.
Was obsessed
Always
with your hair, which is fantastic. By the way, something funny about Trump, occasionally I do hear from the president in one way, shape, or form. And if he calls me, he says the same thing. It's your favorite president by far, by far. He's funny, you know? That to me is actually not exactly hubris. It's just funny. It's almost self-deprecating because he's just sort of like, yes, I am, period.
Yes. He's very, very funny. There's a part in the book where he chases me around the green room with hairspray.
But yeah, he really wants you to try hairspray because
That's interesting. Okay.
he loves your hair.
Like,
He can't believe you don't need
Mr.
hairspray.
President. Yeah, Mr. President, my hair is big enough. I do not need hairspray. And last week, or 2 weeks ago, when I rode on Air Force One. Now, let me tell you, as a kid that grew up on the wrong side of the tracks, who has been a waitress and worked in a sewage treatment plant and had been a cafeteria lady, right? Like, I've not exactly had this life of privilege. And to be on Air Force One is like, oh my God, who am I?
You know, it's absolutely wild to see how fond Trump apparently is of Megyn Kelly now, or, you know, and Megyn Kelly of Trump, essentially that they're friends. Do you guys remember the 2016 GOP presidential debate when Megyn Kelly was moderating and she totally just went after Trump trying to sink him? She asked him, "You've called women fat pigs, slobs, and disgusting animals." You know, Ben basically said, "What do you have to say for yourself?" And then Donald Trump, the legend, the man, the myth, the legend, said, "Only Rosie O'Donnell." And the whole crowd went wild. That is probably one of the best moments in political history, or at least recent American political history, in terms of comedy. Okay, it was hilarious. Trump is a better comedian than most comedians, and I know that's not saying much when you consider the late night people like Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon. They all suck. But even compared to actual comedians who are funny, he's up there.
But as we're going from Air Force One into the Beast, which is the vehicle that the president uses, he asked me if I want a Diet Coke, and I scrunched my face. I do not have a poker face. Obviously, if anybody's watching this, they can see that. And he goes, "Wait, you don't like Coke?" I'm like, "No, I don't like pop." He goes, "Pop?" And so he couldn't believe I didn't like it. He goes, "You try, you like it. It's the best Coke ever."
It's amazing.
And
it's amazing he's as healthy as he is at his age, subsisting on McDonald's, Diet Coke, and Hershey chocolate bars. Keep
I've never seen a skinny person drinking Diet Coke. Donald Trump.
going.
Yeah. And so I tried it. No poker face. I made a face. He goes, "I can't believe you don't like Coke."
So, but you know, I think it's so interesting. You talked to him 7 times the day after the shooting, and for at least 10 minutes a time. To me, that tells me he needed to talk to you. Like he must have needed to talk to people who were there, who are rational, who saw it, who had a perspective on it. And you write something in the book to the effect of, "I gave him the time and space to figure it out for himself," like what the sort of the wisdom that would come from what had happened to him, because I'm sure it wasn't instantaneous. I'm sure it did take a while. We saw that a little at the RNC, which happened a week later. He still had the bandage on his ear, where you know he was a little meandering in the speech, but you could see he was openly grappling with, like, was I saved? You know, like, maybe something extraordinary is happening with me. Maybe I actually am. I believe Trump believes in God. I don't think he's particularly religious, but I do think that that experience started to reframe his own purpose here for him.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you were part of that in the early day.
Yeah. And that's why I decided, I know other journalists would push him to talk and push him to say things, but I didn't think that was right. I knew he was going through something, and I thought it was important for him to be able to figure that out while we had that conversation.
I, for one, believe that God really did save Donald Trump's life that day, probably for some kind of greater purpose. In my view, it's no secret that the deep state was after him and they wanted to get Donald Trump bad. It's like Andrew Tate once said, all right, first, when they don't like you, they malign you in the media. Then if that doesn't work, they censor you online, social media. Of course, those two things happened to Trump. After that, they try to put you in jail. Felon, anybody? And then, well, you can take a guess about what happens after jail and prison if that fails. It is not pretty.
And this has been very humbling for him. The death of Corey has had a huge impact on him.
Really sad.
And you'll find that throughout the book. But also purpose and God have really had a spiritual impact on him in a way that I don't think people truly understand, but they can see in the way he is leading his presidency.
Folks, I hope you enjoyed that. I personally did quite a bit myself. I always like seeing, a closer glimpse into the personal interactions of Donald Trump. He's a truly charismatic figure in public. That goes without saying. But even on a personal level, that seems to radiate very brightly from him. So, hope you enjoyed it. With all that being said, comment below. All right, let us know what you liked about the clip, what kind of stuff you want to see in the future. And if you have not yet, hit that subscribe button down below. To our returning subscribers, we really appreciate you. Thank you all so much. God bless.